Happy Sunday, and welcome everyone to episode 31 of Video Game Club. As always, I'm your host Tyler, and I have with me today the Grim Reaper's favorite little crow, Austin.
Hello.
And it would not be a Video Game Club episode without the one and only, back from her long hiatus, the original soul collector herself, Mox.
Hello. I feel like it is a video game club without me because I miss stuff. It still happened, but I appreciate the compliment.
It's just not the same, you know?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Very
and
nice.
we have a special guest today from behind the editing station here at Bombchu HQ, making his first Video Game Club debut all the way from the Frog King's domain, Andron.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Andron, how does it feel to be on this side of the video?
It feels pretty good. I'm ready to get back behind the desk, but no problem joining today.
Awesome.
You're gonna have to listen to yourself. I feel like that's
I know.
horrible. Awful.
I completely agree.
As a reminder, the nominations for this episode that were suggested by me were Axiom Verge 2, Metroid Zero Mission, and Death's Door. We do need to play Axiom Verge 2.
Like, that needs to just be a choice. I was gonna pick it, but then I thought, I don't know, it'll be like an actual choice later. But anyway, sorry.
No, you're good. Now, before we get started, what have you guys been playing besides Death's Door? Let's start with you, Mox, since we haven't heard from you in a while. What have you been playing?
Not much. Don't judge me, but Genshin Impact, because on the PS5, which just was released on the PS5, it has this cool thing where you literally can just pause it, turn everything off, in the middle of combat or in the middle of a quest, like in the middle of text of a quest, and then come back to that exact moment. So if I'm busy, I literally just can turn it off and not even worry about it.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's a feature that's built into the Xbox for every single game.
Okay, well, I mean, for some games, like, I mean, it's on the PS5 too, but
It
like,
is,
I don't know
it
if I
is.
want to play Final Fantasy 14, you can't do that. You can't
Yeah.
do it 'cause it's on.
Yeah, good point. Andron, what have you been playing?
Today I was playing The Surge 2 because I got actually my girlfriend, I got her a PS5 with Demon Souls because it finally found one, and so she
Nice.
started playing that, and I was like, oh, got the itch, so I started playing Surge 2. Not bad. And then of course I finished No More Heroes 3 this past week for review, so that wasn't too bad either.
Are you able to speak on like 2 sentences on how you feel about No More Heroes 3?
Yeah, it's a good game. It's made for fans, not necessarily new adopters. So if you like those weird kind of Suda 51 games, or you just like weird indie games, you'll like it. There's a lot of swearing, there's a lot of gore. If you like Tarantino films, you probably like it too. But yeah, it's a good game. I'm a fan though, so I'm a bit biased. Best way to put it.
All right.
I'm gonna have to throw No More Heroes 1 into a choice here pretty soon.
Ooh.
There you go.
Okay, is it gory and with swearing and, you know, like a Tarantino film?
Yes.
Ugh.
It's cel shaded and like the gore is very.
It's
if you've
over
ever
the
seen
top.
like Kill Bill, it's just so over the top that it's
Not
not
seen Kill Bill.
gross.
It does not feel.
You
bad
haven't
at all.
seen any movie.
Seen Uncle Butt.
That's it. That's all you've watched.
Oh my gosh. Austin, what have you been playing?
Not a lot. I've been really just slammed pretty hard by work on this big project. I finally got to finish up, and since I finished that, I've just been like, I haven't been in the mental space to start a new game. I did finish Assassin's Creed Unity after we talked last time.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, that game sucks. I don't recommend anyone ever play Assassin's Creed Unity, even if you're like a fan of the series. Like if you're trying to go through all of them, that one just adds nothing.
Okay, like Banjo-Tooie sucks, or like
No,
that
it's
game
just
from
such
Neck of
a-
the Woods sucks.
It's just such a meh, nothing experience that's just like purely to waste your time.
Jesus.
And I can't tell you anything about that game because it's just so unremarkable.
Mox, you know we can't talk about Banjo-Tooie anymore on stream. You know that.
I know, I just wanted to know. It's like a scale now.
Oh boy. I've been playing a whole bunch of games for a video that I'll talk about at the end of this, so stay tuned.
Ooh.
Well, yeah. Now, as I mentioned before, this is Video Game Club, where every 2 weeks we discuss a game voted on by our wonderful friends in the Bombchu Discord and discuss that game right here on twitch.tv/BombchuTV. If you can't catch us live, don't worry. You can find us on YouTube and all major podcast services.
Yay!
Just search Bombchu Video Game Club and you'll find it. You know, give us a listen while you're, pumping iron, cooking, babysitting.
People still say pumping iron.
Doing what you do. I don't know. I guess I'm the only one who listens to podcasts when I'm pumping iron. All right. Now let's jump into
humble brag.
Now let's jump into Death's Door. Death's Door is an action-adventure game developed by Acid Nerve, published by Devolver Digital, released on PC and Xbox One/Series consoles, July 20th, 2021. This is the newest game that we have played for Video Game Club. So usually we talk about like, hey, how was that year? But we don't really know how this year is gonna be just yet. But we can kind of speculate a bit. So what's been going on in 2021 and what does the future look like? Well, it's been a great year for hardware. I mean, we got the Atari VCS. You guys,
Oh my god.
sure you guys have been playing that a ton.
Technically, that came out in December of last year for early backers.
I forgot that came out.
What? I was like, what hardware?
Playdate's coming soon, I guess.
Yeah, we have
There you go.
Switch OLED, Steam Deck, like Andron mentioned, the
Steam
Playdate,
Deck.
and the Evercade VS, which is like
the fuck is that?
it's like the home version of the Evercade, like portable version.
What's an Evercade?
You'll have to look it up. It's a really cool little piece of hardware for playing like retro games. It gets these like collections, like a
Is it better than
Namco.
making a Raspberry Pi?
Probably not, I would say. But I don't know. I don't have one. I just have seen a lot of reviews on it, and it looked interesting. Software this year so far, we've had Yakuza Like a Dragon, Resident Evil Village, Returnal, Skyward Sword HD. Andron just talked about No More Heroes 3. And then we have some, many more coming out, like Halo Infinite, Metroid Dread, Far Cry 6, many others. Is there anything that came out this year that you guys want to just say, like, hey, this game?
Well,
Play it.
Final Fantasy 14 Endwalker is coming out soon.
Sure is.
The game that never ends.
It has Endwalker. It has end in the name. No, it won't be the end of it.
It's too big to end. And Death's Door was developed using the Unity engine. So, if you feel that jank, that's Unity right there.
Damn.
So, let's. I'm not a big fan of Unity, but what do I know?
Fair enough.
Yeah, so let's just go into our overview, and we'll put on the spoiler tag for the story, even though I don't feel like it's one of those games that I don't know if the story is really the main reason.
There's some little spoilers here and there.
There's a few.
There's
a little bit.
Okay, well, we'll throw it on once we get there. So, like I mentioned before, Death's Door is a 3D isometric action-adventure game where you take the role of a small crow who works as a reaper collecting souls. You start with a sword and a bow and arrow. Whenever you hit things with your sword, you replenish ammo for your bow and arrow, which is a really interesting mechanic, I think. Thought that was really cool. There's also 4 other weapons that you can get. I only found the umbrella.
What?
Did you guys find a bunch of other ones?
Oh, yeah.
I found the daggers and the axe. I did not find any of the other ones, I don't think.
No umbrella.
I mean, I found the umbrella as
Okay.
well, but
Yeah. There's a great sword behind like a puzzle later, and that's how I finished the game. It's pretty good.
Oh, interesting.
that would have been nice. I had to use the axe for a lot of the late game stuff, but
Yeah.
I wished I had something a little more powerful.
Mhm.
I beat the whole game with the basic sword.
The sword's the best.
It's really good. Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, Mox, I know you didn't get to play the second half, but I would say on those final bosses, anything that can do more damage in one hit is really nice.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
because they don't leave you a whole lot of time to do a combo.
no, they don't. But yeah, like we mentioned, there were 4 other weapons, and then there's 3 other like magic projectile things that you get. There's bombs, you get fire, and yeah, there's one more. What's the other one?
The hook shot doesn't
Hookshot.
actually use magic.
Oh, hook
Yeah.
shot. Oh yeah, you're right. It doesn't actually use it. But yeah, but the basic attacks pretty much remain the same. You have like a longer range and then like a close range. You get 4 health points that you start out with. Everything that damages you only does 1 damage.
Yep.
Right?
Mhm.
Yeah. You can the way the health system works is really interesting in this game. You find these little seeds on your little journey, and you put them in these pots, and it grows these plants, and they grow like a little health potion for you, and you can use that to replenish your health. And what's interesting is once you use them, they're gone until you leave and come back, and or die. Right? I think.
Yeah.
To go to the hub.
But I believe there's enough seeds for every single plant, like pot in the game, which I thought was really. I didn't realize that at first, and then I was like, man, I'm getting a lot of these, and so you can really just anytime you see a pot, just throw a seed in there, so that if you ever need it, it's there for you, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, there's doors in this game. Hence the name Death's Door. There's a little hub world that has like a bunch of like doors in it over time that you find and open up, but you take the initial door. Hub world has really good music. You take the initial door, and then as you explore, you find other doors, and they are basically like just little shortcuts to little areas in the game. When you die, everything respawns, similar to, I would say, like a Souls-like, but also like other games do that as well. It's not exactly like only a Souls-like does this.
Yeah, all the comparisons I've heard to Dark Souls, I don't really get, because you have checkpoints, but you don't have like healing items that you take with you. The pots, right, I think, are a different enough healing mechanic, and you don't drop your currency on death. Like, the only penalty is you go back to the last checkpoint, but also whatever things that you've done in the world, like shortcuts you've opened up, are still open. So yeah, it's very the only punishment on death is you go back a little bit physically in terms of physical space.
Yeah, you lose progress.
Yeah. All the things that you've done are still done, and you don't lose any of your money.
I use death as a mechanic to reset sometimes if I didn't feel like walking back.
Yeah. You don't, and I guess the only thing, and I think Austin, I think you just said that, is that like souls are like a currency in this game. That's like kind of the only similarity for the most part, which I believe you said.
Yeah,
pretty much.
The other thing that this game has a lot of is like puzzles. Some really, really good ones too. Some really interesting puzzles, and almost like, I would say like Zelda-esque puzzles, some of them.
They were straight up Zelda puzzles. And I was going to chime in earlier, but I know people were saying Souls, but it's very much a Zelda game. Like any way you look at it, the triple hit basic combo, and then like the moves you get are arrow, bomb, essentially the lantern and the hook shot, and then 3 dungeons where you have to get the keys. I'm surprised anyone said Dark Souls, because it's very much like it was immediately apparent as I started playing. Like it's very heavily. What
Zelda
I had mainly
inspired. Heard was it's Zelda Dark Souls.
Okay,
and I definitely get the Zelda aspect.
Mm-hmm.
The Dark Souls aspect, I think, was a little. That's a bit of a reach.
It's a stretch. Yeah, everyone wants Dark Souls.
Yeah, they do. So why?
Because it's fun.
It's fun.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the game in like a nutshell as far as like gameplay elements go. You can also upgrade your abilities as well. You can also increase your health bar as well, like your max health and your max. I'll say like magic, but it's not necessarily magic.
They call it magic in the game.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you can increase your max magic that you can hold. That's kind of it gameplay wise. Anyone wants to add?
How much health did you guys end up with at the end? Because I had
4.
I still had 4.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I think I ended up with 5. Like it was hard to find those things.
I think there's only 4 of each shrine. So like 4 of the heart pieces, health pieces, and 4 of the magic pieces. To which I'll get into my thoughts on that later, but I don't know that for sure. I believe there's only 4 of each.
That makes sense.
If there's more, then I really missed a lot, but I had like 77% on my save file at the end.
Yeah.
So
All right.
There were some pretty cool secrets though, like perspective secrets. I know like one part. I think you almost showed it in that video, but you stopped short. There's like a little corner where if you walk far enough, like the whole camera shifts around, and there's like another ladder, or like another stone behind it. It's really cool. Like as much as I'm like, we'll talk about my thoughts later. It definitely is a well-made game, gameplay wise, anyway. So. I like the secrets.
Pretty polished. So I'm going to throw on the spoilers tag while we openly, freely talk about the story of this game. We'll just take it step by step, and feel free to interrupt at any time if you guys want to add. I'm not too crazy into stories, as people may know who have listened to Video Game Club for a while now. For some reason, I have trouble following stories when I play games versus when I watch a movie or read a book for whatever reason. But anyway. First mission of the game, you're sent out to collect the soul of a monster who doesn't want to like leave life willingly, which becomes like a theme of this game. After you defeat it, this large old crow comes and he intervenes and he steals the soul, and then he tells you of this like conspiracy about the disappearance of other crows. He explains that you need to go through these 3 dungeons to collect 3 giant souls, and those are needed to open up Death's Door, title of the game. The 3 dungeons are the Urnwich Estate, the Overgrown Ruins where the Frog King lives, and the Frozen Region where Betty lives. Throughout the game, you basically get like more information about this commission that you work for and its leader, the Lord of Doors. They're in these like little like books that are lying around. Did you guys read those like every time you found one, and do you feel like that added much to the story?
Yeah, they're the logs of the prior Reaper
yeah,
and just regular office work.
Yeah. So yeah, you go through each something I do want to say about each giant soul, and whenever you defeat them, is there's like a graveyard keeper dude.
Yes.
What would you call him, Mox? You're giggling.
He's a great. No, I'm thinking about it because he was funny. I like.
Oh, yeah, and how whenever you beat like each boss, there's like a little funeral that happens.
It's so cute,
and it was so nice.
Yeah, the funerals are really good.
Yeah. Anyway, so you go through all these dungeons. Before we get to like what happens after you collect the 3 giant souls, is there anything you guys want to add about the boss's lore that kind of stood out to you, or anything like that? I thought
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mox.
I was gonna say the nuance of the story is that you've been assigned this giant, soul to go and collect, but then the gray crow, the older crow, comes and steals your quarry because he thinks that having your giant soul that you're about to reap will open the door, Death's Door, that his quarry is stuck behind. And the idea is that if you can't get your assigned soul, then you have to spend eternity looking for that soul until you reap it, and then you can go back to the commission and get your next assignment. And so the Gray Crow, go ahead.
And while that's going on,
sorry.
I was just gonna say, while that's going on, the office people are also like they're on you, like, come on, you need to like get this soul and stuff, and like,
yeah, because until you get that soul, basically while everything's open for you to keep going and get that soul, you are mortal. Mm-hmm. And you age normally, like in normal time, whereas when you're not on assignment like that, apparently
you're just
time
immortal.
flows differently for you,
Mm-hmm.
And you're no longer mortal. So there's a very big drive to go and complete your mission. That's why the old crow looks so old and big compared to you.
Yeah.
And he tells you to collect these 3 other giant souls of these, creatures, I guess, that have long lived their expiration date. Say. And
basically, they're trying to live forever, and that's their goal.
To open the door. Keep going.
Yep.
And so, just to add to that, like, because you're about to leave from the bosses, like the main 3, right?
Yep.
So I know, like, I think it's the witch, and she directly just says, "Hey, we had a deal." Like it's almost the first time you meet her, and you're like, "What the heck?" But what I found interesting was, like, as you go through their areas, like, they'll pop up and be like, "Hey, what are you doing here? What did you break all this stuff? What are you doing?" and you can actually attack them during those, and so it almost makes you feel like you're invading their place. They're just like peaceful people, like, I just want to be immortal, leave me alone. But then you're just like this interloper messing with what they got going on. Like, it's kind of an interesting feel compared to some of the other titles where they're constantly like antagonistic towards you, and it's not really, you're more the antagonist, going through their dungeons at this point. Especially with Betty.
How do they react?
Go ahead.
How do they react if you hit them?
They just disappear. They would run off, just like, why'd you hit me?
Yeah, and then they
just
run
kind of
off.
walk away. Yeah.
I never once hit them.
Oh, I whacked them every time.
Oh.
Yeah, I decided not to attack them when I was going through.
Yeah, they were nice. They're just like watching you.
I hit the frog only because he kept talking stuff, so that was kind of...
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's also gross, and he looked more like a toad than a frog.
So, yeah, you get all the giant souls, you unlock the door, and then when you do that, you learn about, first of all, that death is behind the door.
He's just this nerdy little kid.
Yeah.
Death is behind death's door?
Who would have thunk? I know. But you learn about this exchange that happened between Death and the Lord of Doors, and how that there was an exchange where I guess like the Lord of Doors was able to extend their life because he said like he would like try to find like a successor on his own or something like this.
You don't know this. Let's see. So the Lord of Doors created a door that would like suck all of the spirits that the death was otherwise reaping, but he got tired of reaping them because people were sad to see their loved ones die. So instead, the Lord of Doors approach Death was like, hey, we'll create this door for you that sucks in all the spirits, but we gotta live forever. And Death was like, okay, whatever. And then eventually.
That's the arrangement that they made to where.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I forgot the part where Death has a little, he has a little, emotional side to him. He gets sad. And so that's why it's created. Yeah.
And also I don't remember how the Lord of Doors came about in the first place, but they're artificial beings. They don't really exist. They don't have souls. So
they used to be people. They used to be something. They don't even actually name what they are, but they have like I think it's the same thing. But they had to deal with death. They continue to monitor the doors, and they just keep passing it down to the next person. But at some point, they're supposed to say, "Okay, 800 years is enough. Now I need to pass it on to my heir," or something like that.
And then they create their heir and teach them all the rules.
Yeah,
exactly.
And the current,
as well as the day that they're going to die.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
And the current Lord of Doors is not down for death. He does not want to die, and so he locks, like he basically like traps Death behind the door so that he can gain immortality, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so whenever,
the door, all the soul energy that Death takes is supposed to be recycled into new lives, which is why the world is like suddenly kind of becoming dilapidated.
Right. So you open that door, and then the old crow or the gray crow, he's there with you, and he turns on you because
he's like he doesn't turn on you. He just goes crazy.
He goes mad. Yeah.
And instead of fighting anyone who causes problem, he fights you, the guy who's been helping him out this whole time.
Which I would call turning on somebody. All right, that's how I would describe that.
Turn on anyone.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Whether he did it sane or not sane.
Well, you have to think like when you hit that point of, well, this is my only hope, and then you reach beyond it, you're like, oh, my hope's gone. Well, I'm gonna destroy everything because I'm not gonna die. And I think that's. I actually felt really sad fighting him, so I was like, man, this dude is like my mentor, kind of. And then you get him down, and he's like, oh, now he has peace, which is okay. But I sympathized with him. I agree. Probably should have tried to attack Death instead of me, though. I don't know.
Death just noped right out.
Yeah, he did nope out of there. It's funny how Death is portrayed as this like Moxie were saying, this like, I don't know, teen
Nerdy little kid.
Yeah. It's just really
interesting. You see him, he
interesting.
just like puts his hand up and then like wiggles all his fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I do not remember how this happens, but somehow like the Lord of Doors like finds out that you've opened the door and he's not happy.
That door is in his window. He sees it at all times.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Like his little castle looks out on the door, Death's door.
Okay. I didn't catch that. I didn't know that.
Oh. Yeah, when you go and visit him the first time and he's drinking out of his what is it? World's Best Lord or something.
Yeah.
Mug.
Yeah. Weird mug. That was
And he's like, you're here for an award? And then he...
Right. And then that's when the boss fight starts, right? Against him.
After he finds out. Yeah. Well, first you go back to HQ and they're like, yeah, down with the Lord of Doors.
Yeah. Overthrow him. He's awful. And then you fight him, which is just an insane boss fight.
It's pretty awesome.
I liked it until the end. Then it got a little frustrating, but we can talk about that once we get there. But you fight the Lord of Doors, you kill him, and they show like this whole, I think that's when they show the cutscene of like how he's like, oh, you know, whenever you know that you're gonna die, like kind of like changes who you are and all this stuff, and talks about immortality a bit. And then that's the game, except not, because there's more after that. He drops like this rusty key, which you can use to open up this tower, which you can use to switch the game to night mode. And then there's like a secret ending, or like the true ending. Does anyone want to explain that or feel confident explaining that?
I read it and watched it. And
Okay.
so the idea that I'm getting is like the whole point of it is to tie in with Titan Souls and then also open the door for like a third game that will still kind of lead to this same storyline. But so you spend the whole, I don't know, post-game thing collecting these, I don't even know what they are, tablets with eyes on them to go and talk to...
Tablets of knowledge.
Yes. And from there you learn that in the past, a human went and opened the first door, and in doing so, like, I don't know, absorbed truth. I don't know what truth is. I guess a boss. I don't know. And so then human and truth were one, but then the human lost their soul in the process, and that human is Titan Souls' protagonist, and truth is the final boss of Titan Souls. But then you learn that the first door, after the human that was fused with truth lost its soul, the first door shattered, but the first Lord of Doors collected the pieces of the broken door to create Death's door. So that's how that door came into it. And then the whole point of you collecting all these tablets is to like release truth again. And truth manipulates all of those crows, the free crows that are trying to get you to overthrow death, into assigning you a giant soul at the beginning of the game, so that you would be intercepted by the old crow, thus beginning
the whole
events
game
of the game. So truth is like manipulating you to like fuse with truth, which you do, and then move on. So
would you kindly collect 3 giant souls?
yes. Very true. Very truth. So I see that it's like just a stupid kind of
Just
not
trying to tie it
interesting.
in. Yeah.
I was not very interested as well. Is there any other spoilery story stuff that you would like to touch on before we move on to the development of this game?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I loved the pot, all the pots, and the grandma, and her son or grandson, Pothead or whatever.
Yeah.
Just everything about that was so cute. But I was very chafed because the Urn Witch looks exactly like Yubaba from Spirited Away, and there's no way that was. I mean, like, I don't even know. Like, I guess it's an homage maybe, but it's like a straight up rip out, from the thing. They
talk about how the game is like they took inspiration from.
Is it inspiration or is it just copying?
Well, yeah.
I mean, all of the black blobs that she created, World of Goo. In the sewers, when you go into the sewers, did you guys go into the sewers?
Oh yeah.
Super Mario Sunshine. Like, I don't even know. They didn't even try. Anyway, that's all I had to say.
Dang.
In terms of spoiler stuff, I'll mention there's like the dock that you can go visit. Somebody there is like really heartbroken over they just won't stop talking about somebody named Betty.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't make the connection, but that there was Betty the Yeti.
Yes, it was.
You killed their love interest,
and that fight was dumb. which I'll talk about.
Yeah.
All right. So, development of this game, like we mentioned before, is published by Devolver Digital. We have played 2 games already for Video Game Club that were published by Devolver Digital. Any guesses?
Hotline Miami.
Yes, the Lost Episode, Hotline Miami, and
Yep. What was the other one?
Mox.
Not Hacknet.
Mox.
Was it one I picked?
Yeah, I think so. Colors, Sad Girl.
Oh, Gris.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
Grease.
Grease.
Glee.
Glee.
Developed by Acid Nerve, which is located in Manchester, United Kingdom. It's a 2-person studio, Mark Foster and David Finn. Foster is credited as a programmer, designer, writer, and animator, and Finn was producer, designer, composer, and sound designer. David Finn is also a composer of other games such as Moonlighter, which I really, really liked Moonlighter. If you haven't played it, go play it. It's on Game Pass. And Titan Souls, which, speaking of Titan Souls, this is the same studio that made Titan Souls. Did anyone here play it? I did not.
Nope.
I played a bit.
I did.
Oh?
Oh, let's can we get a little baby review from you all? Andron?
Sure. Andron first. Go
I
ahead.
didn't finish it though, so Austin will be better.
Oh, all good.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting game. It's basically a boss rush kind of game. Each boss has like a weak spot, and if you manage to hit that weak spot, they die. Like it's one. They have a one-hit death. You have a one-hit death.
Oh.
And so it's built around making interesting bosses around that mechanic. It gets pretty difficult. So you have a bow and arrow. That's your attack, and you can shoot the bow. Once your arrow's gone, it's gone. You have to call it back to you, which takes some time and requires you to stand still, which is time being vulnerable. So it's very interesting, pretty frustrating, but a very unique game. I haven't really played anything else like it.
Yeah.
And I definitely overall enjoyed it, but there were a lot of head-banging, frustrating moments in there that I saw kind of towards the end of this game.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my general takeaway.
Is it something, Andron, that you think you'll go back to? Because you said you played it before.
Oh yeah. I like the challenge. I think the only reason I stopped, and I started playing it actually this year, was that I reached a point where there was 50 paths to go or something. I was like, all right.
Yeah,
I'm not
it
ready
definitely
for
gets
this.
overwhelming.
It was really ridiculous. But I think every path had a boss or 2 or 3 alongside it, but I just wasn't ready for that at that point. So I kind of quit it. But yeah, I'd return back. It's definitely way more unique than Death's Door. Is the best way to put it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
They also worked with 2 concept artists and a modeler for this game. The developers wanted to use ideas and themes from their previous game, Titan Souls, and try to create a more advanced, polished game of Titan Souls. They drew inspiration from Zelda, Dark Souls, and, which Mox already called out, Studio Ghibli as well.
Ah!
That makes sense.
There you go. The game was about halfway done at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, which required them to do some remote work.
Oh my god, there were only 2 of them. What space is not big enough for 6 feet of distancing?
Well, they also worked with some concept artists and a modeler, remember? So they maybe have been
Those
in the
people
office.
work from their homes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, call them
That
up for an
sounds like a
interview,
good
Mox.
That sounds like a good excuse just to delay.
Otherwise, it didn't really have a negative impact on development. So, how did it review? Well, it was generally favorable reviews, 8s and 9s. A lot of the pros were that it was an approachable Dark Souls, which I don't agree with that.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at
Has
all.
tight mechanics, short and sweet. Had a lot of attention to detail. A lot of some of the cons were that it had a lot of backtracking, and it was not the most original game, which we kind of already touched on that a little bit. We don't know final sales, as you guys know. Especially newer games, they don't like to really release sales unless something did crazy good. But what we do know is that it sold more than 100,000 copies in its first week, which is, I would say, probably pretty successful for a small game like this. So who knows how much it's sold today. I will say that this game, it made quite a splash, at least on social media. I don't know if you guys pay attention to like the big media, like IGN, GameSpot, etc., or the influencers in there, and kind of like connected to that, whatever you want to call it.
Don't say that.
But I just said it. Mox.
Mox, being on this channel, do you know that makes you an influencer?
No, it doesn't.
Anyway, but a lot of people were saying like this is like their game of the year, and
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding, and good for them. I mean, that's awesome that you found something that you really like, but I cannot see, after playing Resident Evil Village, and there's a ton of stuff still to come out,
other games already,
and
Endwalker.
I just can't really see it. But it is time for our personal takes to see if it's our game of the year. And Mox, we know that you've been really busy, been a busy little bee over there, and you only played the first half. But still, we would like your take on the first half of the game and what you thought.
Thank you. I did. So I played the first half, but I watched the rest of it in its entirety. And the reason I couldn't get through it is I am so bad at this game, and I know exactly why. There needs to be more invincibility iframes. For example, you get knocked over, and it takes you like a full second to like stand back up, and you're not invincible for like the last little bit of that. And so if you could easily get into like, just a repeated, get just knocked over 1,000 times. Or if you've dodged, you don't have iframes like after you're done dodging, unlike every other game in existence. And for some reason, screen transitions. I got had sometimes if I die, which I died like 30 times in half of the game I played. If you just run through, all the monsters will follow you forever. Yeah. And they accumulate at doorways. So if you try to go back through a door where there's like literally 30 monsters waiting for you, you don't have any iframes to get through it. I died again, getting stuck in a doorway. Anyway, and then the other thing is that if you initiate an attack, you have to complete its entire movement before you can do something else. But it's very sensitive about like if you double tap on like the controller, I use it square. Then you
wait.
I know I used a controller.
You didn't use mouse and keyboard for this one?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Because my PS5 controller was unpacked, so I used it, and you just plug it and play.
All right.
PS5 is very nice. But if I press square twice, I have to complete both of those attacks before it will let me press X to dodge. Weirdest key ever. And so you just get smashed because they have this stupid gimmick where every monster will do multiple attacks and then again, and some monsters have a pattern, so you can learn the pattern, but other ones there's no pattern. So anyway, I died 1,000 times. I fell off the world. Another 100.
I also fell off.
And the pacing was so bad. I loved the puzzles. I wanted more puzzles, but you get 30 minutes of puzzles and then an hour of just fighting, straight up fighting, and it just wasn't fun. But anyway, other than that, I really liked the game.
Give us your score out of 10.
Ugh.
Give it to me, you influencer, you.
Oh my gosh. I'll give it a 7 because it was novel. I really liked the art. The characters were incredibly funny. I really liked the writing, although there was a lot of grammatical mistakes, which was kind of embarrassing. And the music was great. And I liked the game. I just didn't like fighting, which was more than half the game. That's my.
All right. I'll go next. I was pretty hyped going into this game because it received quite a lot of praise from people in the industry that I tend to align with taste-wise. The setting and the music, I feel like they just fit really well together, and the controls were very tight. As far as the invincibility frames thing that Mox was talking about, I totally agree. There was some times where you would get hit and you'd be kind of hit into a corner, and you might as well just restart because you're done. You can't, they're just gonna continue to beat you up in that corner and you can't get out, and that was very frustrating, especially on the last boss, which I hate very much. The game felt really polished for the most part until I got to the end. There was this difficulty spike at the end that was a bit crazy. I know this game is supposed to be a little hard, but the majority of the game was pretty tame for me. And then all of a sudden, once I got to the third boss, it was like, oh, this game's gonna get crazy hard. And it was like the third boss, the second to last boss, and the last boss. Like all of them were just like extremely tough. Whenever the first two were like cakewalks. I don't know if that's just like how I play. Like, you know, for other people, maybe the second one was tough, but the other ones weren't. I don't know, but I'm curious, Austin and Andron, what you guys thought of those bosses as well here in a bit. Yeah, I love the gameplay. I really liked all the little hidden things in the game, even though I didn't find them all. I thought it was like overall, like, you know, like a really good time. And I would recommend it to people, and I would say it's pretty good. I would give it a 7 out of 10. It starts off really great. It had some really frustrating difficulty spikes, but overall, definitely something that I would recommend people check out for sure. Let's end on Andron. So, Austin, let's go with you.
All right. So it may have just been where my headspace was at when starting to play this game, but I wasn't that excited to play it for some reason. And when I first started it off, it got off to a little bit of a slow start. I was just like, I'm gonna have to trudge through this. And by the time I made it to the first boss's like area, I was starting to get more into a groove with it, and I had some fun there. And I think the combat's good. I think the puzzles are really good. I will say, Zelda kind of trained me a long time ago to do things like do all the things in the room. If there's interactables in the room, interact with all of them. If there's lanterns to light them all. If there's enemies to kill all the enemies. Something might happen in that room. And a lot of games don't reward you for doing that, and this game rewarded me for a lot of my core like gamer my Zelda instincts in ways that just made me really happy. I was like, I hadn't seen this in a very long time. Like, oh, if I point the camera just a little bit further out, oh, there's something there for me to shoot. And so finding secrets in this was just super gratifying. I will say, so enemies are kind of built to give you very little currency or experience. And instead, you'll find these orbs that give you like 100 versus enemies giving you 1 or 2, especially like towards the start of the game. And so a lot of puzzles would reward you with an extra orb, which was like, oh, this is really gratifying. That gets me a really big chunk of the way towards my next upgrade. Initially, the shrines, like that would give you the piece of health upgrade or the piece of magic upgrades, I was excited for those. By the time I reached the end and I realized I think there's only 4 of each, so you have to find them all for those rewards to be meaningful, made some of the tougher challenges that led to those feel a lot less rewarding on their own. There's especially one towards the end on a very icy path that ticked me off quite a bit. Yeah, I thought combat was pretty solid. I never had an iframe issue, but I also upgraded the heck. Like, I went full speed upgrade first, so I was able to dodge very often. So that might be why I had less of a problem there. I'm not sure.
I did damage, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I thought the game was super polished, and in one way that I really realized it was a very polished game. Anytime, so it takes place from an isometric view, right? Yep. Which I can often have problems with that, but there were certain spots where you'd be needing to navigate like multiple levels, like vertical layers in a room, and when they were close together, it was kind of easy to tell, but when they were further apart, like my eyes would start to play tricks on me, and I realized something they would do in that room, they would make each level that was like that you might get confused with, they made them a different texture. So you could tell like visually what level you were on. I thought little touches like that were really cool. I liked that death wasn't super punishing. I thought the healing mechanic was unique and interesting. I really enjoyed the game up until I reached, like you said, the third boss, and I hit this massive difficulty spike that I thought it was an interesting and well-designed boss. It just did not fit in very well with the rest of the game to me. Like, I felt like I was playing one game up until that boss, and then for the rest of the game, I was playing just something totally different. And it like if that's what the game is, that's fine. But for for all the rest of the game that's been leading up to this, I've been playing something else and being trained for something else. So I thought that just kind of came out of nowhere. I wish it was paced a little bit better. I didn't really love where the story went from there either, but I thought the music was really good. I thought just in general it was very polished. When I saw what you could do in the post game, I was kind of so turned off by the last chunk of the game that I decided I wasn't going to go pursue the post game stuff. But it's interesting that it's there.
Yeah, it gives people that wanted like a little bit more bang for their buck.
Yeah. There are some games that I definitely wish had a similar post-game style like that. So for anyone who just really fell in love with this game, I'm glad they have that to go check out after the fact. I would give this a 7 out of 10. I think it's really well polished. I did not regret all of my time with it. I had a good amount of fun. It's not a super unique game, like we said, and I was kind of looking for something newish. Mm-hmm. And this was just kind of a very polished but not so unique game that ended on a bit of a sour note for me just because of the massive difficulty spike that I didn't really even feel satisfied completing after finishing off the final boss there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Andron, what about you?
So I'm not going to repeat the stuff that you guys already said because you covered pretty much everything. Like it's solid. It does a lot here and there. I will say I'm a huge Zelda fan, so I'm very critical of games that are close to Zelda, even if like a baby step to the left or baby step to the right. I'm very critical of like how it's designed and everything, and honestly, it's a really competent Zelda game. Like it's if Nintendo made it, I wouldn't blink an eye. The only difference is there's like a crow instead of a guy in a green tunic. And I guess that's really where like my only major gripe is. And to preface it, I did play this game before release, so I had like a pre-release version. But there constantly feels like they start doing something unique and then they stop just short of being amazing. And that's kind of what I kept feeling during it, because like they had the dungeons, they had all the stuff, but then you do the first dungeon, then you're like, okay, this is pretty cool, I'm getting the stuff. You do the second dungeon, it's pretty much exactly the same. Like it has a different coat of paint, but you're going through and you're doing 4X things, then you're going over here, then you're grabbing this out that box, then you're gonna use that item for 2 minutes, then go fight the boss, and after a while it gets boring. I actually was dreading going to the third dungeon because I knew exactly what I was gonna expect after the first dungeon, But beyond that, my only big gripe is, like the developers definitely played it safe, like Mock said earlier. All this crazy stuff in the post game, but none of that stuff was in the actual game, so like that tells me pretty immediately like the developers were afraid of either alienating people that don't know anything about Titan Souls, or there's like, we'll play it safe, we'll make a good game, but we're not going to make a game that breaks boundaries. And the big thing I look at is you have this crow protagonist, right? And so it's a bird. A bird does a lot of things. When it walks, it does the nice cute stuff, it tilts its head. But then you give him a bow instead of maybe using a feather to shoot, a bow. You know what I'm saying? Or he doesn't fly at all. He doesn't flutter, period, during the whole game. So it's like you give this really cool looking character, but then you don't dive deeper into that identity. So it's very much like, this is going to sell because it's like Zelda. It's not, this is going to sell because it's a unique, brand new experience, And that's kind of how I felt the whole game. Bosses, Austin will tell you I'm good at patterns. Like I learned patterns like a crazy guy, so I learned it pretty quickly, like 2 battles in, and I could beat whatever it was. But it still felt, like definitely the pace increased a lot. The second to last boss and the final boss were like ridiculous compared to the rest of the whole game. So it was very much a steep curve, but those were probably the best parts of the game versus playing the actual game, which is pretty bad. So it's not a bad game though. It's just very safe, and this is the best word I can give it, because honestly there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't feel like something I'm gonna remember in a year, or I'm gonna remember in a few months. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like I only remembered it because I played it 2 months ago, not because I was dreaming about it at night, versus Ocarina of Time, which has lasted how many ever years because it was original, and does a lot with its formula. Beyond that, I think the only big gripe I have is they don't they didn't play enough with the dungeons. You know, like in Zelda, you get either an item or a gimmick really early on, and they play with that the whole dungeon. And so then you know, oh, that water dungeon sucked. And then people know exactly what you mean. Here, I'd be like, oh, you know, that one dungeon sucked. Oh, is that the one where this thing happened? Yeah, that also happens in this dungeon. Ah, okay. You know, there's no real thing I could point to outside of that. So again, it's just, you know, they could have gone further and they just stopped just short of being like really, really good. So one thing I will say positive, because I know we're trying to do a decent note at the end. My favorite moment of the whole game was in the little area with the pistons. And then when the pistons started syncing to the music, I was like, okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Now you got something going on here. But then they never did that again. So I was like, all right, this is cool. But yeah, that was my favorite moment. And I literally just sat there for a while and just like looking around, looking at everything syncing up. But that made my brain feel nice. And so, yeah. So I'll give it an 8 out of 10. It wasn't a horrible game, but it didn't do enough to like push itself to being like a 9 or a 10. So, yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. That was a little dive in our takes on Death's Door. If you enjoyed hearing us discuss Death's Door and want to join us for the next game, stay put, because our next regular Video Game Club game vote just ended, and it was between Famicom Detective Club, The Girl Who Stands Behind, Apotheon, and Simulacra? How do you say it? Simulacra? All right. And it looks like the winner is... Just triple checking, you never know. Ever know? All right. And it is going to be Famicom Detective Club, The Girl Who Stands Behind. That specific story, right? Or I guess game.
Yes, it's the shorter one.
That sounds scary.
I'm so excited.
Thank you so much to everyone who voted. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Again, just as a reminder, you can catch us here on twitch.tv/BombchuTV every 2 weeks at 2 Eastern, with the next stream being on September 12th. Or if you can't make the live session, don't worry, you can find the episode up on youtube.com and all major podcast services. Just search Bombchu Video Game Club and you'll find it. Before we leave, Austin, Andron, me, what is Bombchu working on? I know that Bundle Week is happening soon. Next week?
Yeah, I think that's next week.
Yeah,
it's next week.
And I've been playing a lot of games for a video that I'll be working on with Andron. Well, Andron works on every video, but you know, he'll be helping in the background. And yeah, it's gonna be an exciting video. Hopefully, should I reveal what it is, Andron?
Well, why don't you hold off? Let him be surprised. I think
all right. I'll hold off. Yeah, and Mox, anything you want to plug?
Genshin Impact.
Go play Genshin Impact. Mox
Don't play
says.
Genshin Impact.
It's so cute. All the little people.
It is so boring.
No, it's not.
Maybe it's fun to some people, but man, I could not get into it.
It's such a casual game.
It is. I think that's why.
Oh.
Austin, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Mox, welcome back.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us.
You.
And special thank you to Andron for joining us live as well.
Thank you.
I'm Tyler. This was Video Game Club, episode 31, Death's Door, and we're out. I'd like to give a special shout out to Michael Slater, Blake Harms, and all of our patrons over on Patreon. Thank you, and thank everyone for watching.